Hi, I'm Maria from So Local. Today we're going to be making this apron from tea towel fabric or a lightweight canvas or linen. We're going to be using tea toweling or lightweight canvas or linen fabric, some twill tape for the straps and the ties. We need 2 little D-rings, thread, and your instructions and pattern. First thing we have to do is measure to find out how wide you want your finished apron to be. And this is completely up to you, how you want it to be. I'm gonna go with 12 inches. So the number that I just chose, which is 12, that's going to be A. So I'm gonna write down 12 right there. And we're gonna add 17 to that number. And that gives me 29 inches. So 29 inches is going to be the starting width of my apron. That's the piece, the rectangle that I'm going to start with. So I'm going to start by cutting my rectangle to be 36 inches long by 29 inches wide. I'm going to keep the full length. It's going to be around 36 inches. I'm just going to square it off. So to do that, since the fabric's folded, I'm putting the fold on my horizontal line right here, and I'm just going to trim off anything that's past that line on this side and then also on the other side. So I'm just squaring it off. I'm going to flip this. Again, making sure that my fold line is on that line. And I'm just pushing the fabric over enough so that I have something to trim off. I'm just straightening it out is all I'm doing. So that's my smallest edge. And for width, I want it to be 29 inches wide. So if that was in half, I would end up with 14.5 inches. Which brings me right to here. And that will place my stripe right in the center, which is kind of what I wanted. There we go. Piece 2 will just overlap piece 1 a little bit, right along this line right here. And then we cut that out. This is the one we need. So we're going to take this piece, and place it not on the fold. So it's on the 2 cut edges that are folded. And this is what our apron's going to be. This is going to be leftovers. Now, from this piece, we're going to cut 2 pieces for the pocket. It's going to be a lined pocket, so that's why we're cutting 2 pieces, 8 inches by 7 inches. I'm going to do my stripes horizontal, and that way I don't have to worry about lining up the vertical lines. Sometimes with the tea toweling fabric, you will notice that there are little knots in the woven fabric. I'm going to show you. I'll see if I can find one. Here's one. So if you have little knots like that, don't cut them out. Just leave them on. If you want to cut it off, just make sure you fray check it first. But that would be the wrong side of the fabric, and it's just the underside of the weave. We're going to place the 2 pocket pieces together. We're sewing all the way around, except for a little space in the bottom. This is going to be my bottom. And that's where we're going to turn it right side out. I am going to use a 3/8 seam allowance for this. Now we're gonna trim the corners. And then we'll turn it right side out. I'm gonna run my stick along the inside edge here, just to push that seam out. Where your hole is, we want to make sure that they're both pushed in, and make that line look as invisible as possible so you can't see where the hole is. Now we're going to top stitch along the top edge of the pocket only. Hello. So that is not going to be the one with the hole. We're going to top stitch the opposite side. So decide which side of your pocket looks the best, and that's the one you're going to top stitch on. I'm going to lengthen my stitch because I like to do that for top stitching. Sometimes when you start sewing on a corner that is double layered, it's very thick and it tends to get stuck in the machine a bit. So if you grab onto your beginning threads and just tug them a little bit when you first start, it doesn't let it get stuck and it stops you from getting a thread jam. We're going to place the apron on your ironing board with the wrong side up. And I've got the top of the apron up here, and I'm going to just fold it down about 1/4 inch. And then we'll fold it again at 1 1/4. So now we have the top hem pressed, like that. So eventually you're gonna be sewing across here to hold that down, but we're gonna do sort of like finishing the sides of the hem. It's sort of like doing a facing, but what we do is flip that second fold over the opposite direction. So the fold is now being folded backwards. So now it looks like that, and we're going to be sewing the sides right here. We're going to use a 1/2 inch seam. I'm just going to mark here where we're going to sew. So now we're going to trim the excess in the corners. I don't want to go too close to the stitching because this fabric frays a lot, and also sometimes you end up with a little hole if you cut too close to your stitches. Now we can flip the hem back the way it's supposed to be, like this, and poke that out. So now we have that nice neat edge at the top. We're going to be hemming this curve with a very tiny rolled hem. And the way to do that, the way to hem a curve with a woven fabric is to make sure that it's a very small amount folded. So we'll be starting up here, almost inside underneath that hem. I'm just going to push that under like that. And that's going to be our guide because we want this edge to be matching up here. Probably easier to do a small fold first and press one fold at a time. And then the second one. Once you've pressed something like this, it's a good idea to let it sit and cool on the ironing board, and that's gonna stay like that then. If we move it, then it's gonna distort the fabric and it might stay like that. Now from your twill tape, we need to cut off a piece that's 5 inches, and we'll slide the D-rings onto it. Fold it in half and have the raw edges meet up, and this is going to be tucked under the hem. We just want to tuck in about 1/4 inch of the twill tape. Then we need to cut a piece that is 27 inches long. And this is going to be the adjustable tie. Now we're going to fold the twill tapes up so that they stick up over the top of the apron like that. And we'll be stitching across like this, and I'm going to be looking at the good side when I do this. So it's like that on the back. And this is a good time to move your needle over if you want to get right to the edge, but you don't have a lot of space here. And usually you do that by adjusting the width. Same thing on this one. Now we're going to sew the 2 curved hems that we already pressed and pinned. And you'll notice that when I put the pins in, I was thinking about where the sewing machine is going to be when I'm sewing them. So because they're pointing at the sewing machine, it's easy for me to take them out. So you can see on the other side, I pointed them the other direction because I'll be sewing like that. So if I had pointed them like this, then when I go to sew, I have to take the pin out pointing into the machine, which makes it awkward to do, and it means I have to take the pin out a lot earlier, and then it's less useful. So now the curved hems are sewn, and see how it got a little bit distorted when sewing. So I'm just gonna iron that and steam it. Just push the iron down and let that sit for a minute, and that will set it. So it's gonna stay like that now. Now we're gonna fold and hem the 2 straight sides. And we'll do a similar size, but it doesn't have to be as tiny because it's not a curve. We're going to take the rest of the twill tape, fold it in half, and these are going to be our ties. when you sew those side seams, you're going to tuck the ties in just like that. Now I'm anticipating that the machine's going to get a little hung up on this thick spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing right here back up to the top, and then I'll grab onto my 2 threads from the beginning, the top and bobbin thread, and I'll pull on them gently while I sew, and that will hopefully bring it through without it getting stuck. This side will be starting at the lower edge and will move up towards there. Now I'm going to push the twill tape pointing out like this, flip it over, and stitch on the very far edge of the apron. Now we're going to fold and press the bottom hem, and we'll do a slightly bigger hem for the bottom, but we'll start, the first fold will be about 1/4 of an inch. When you're pressing a hem, try not to slide the iron or to pull the fabric at all, but just fold it up. This is really nice with a stripe because you can make sure that the stripes are still matching. So if you find that as you iron, if your hem is starting to do that, by the time you get way over to the side, you'll have this sticking out like that. So just fold it, even if this looks like it's puffy a bit, just put your iron on top and steam it, and that will make it go straight again. And now we're going to do a 1 inch. So we're going to be sewing tiny little hems in the ends of our ties. So I changed my thread color to be an exact match because I have white. So you might want to do that because sometimes the hems look a little bit messy. And we're going to sew close to this. I also grabbed a tailor's awl so that I can help to maneuver and push around this tiny little piece as I'm sewing it. So now to attach your neck tie, you slide that through both of the D-rings and then just through one of them. So now it's pocket time, and you can put on your apron so you can get a feel for where you want your pocket to go. You could put it up here, or you could do it off to the side. I'm gonna put mine right around here. So just don't stab yourself when you do this. Do that, and then we'll straighten it out. So I'm just gonna straighten this, and mine is going 4 1/4 inches in from the side and about 6 1/4 inches from the bottom. Yours will maybe in a very different place. So this is how I pin when I have a thick pocket that I want to pin down. Rather than going down from the top and going up like that, I find that this sort of distorts the whole thing. So I'll just go in on an angle, just grabbing that lower level, that lower layer, and then push up like that. So it's attached, but it just helps to keep it really nice and flat. If you have a little tag or a label, then this would be a cute place to put it. For the pocket, we want to sew about 1/8 of an inch or even less from the edge of the pocket.
Wow.